Okay, I have been bursting to talk to Viola Davis. She is, to me, just stunning. The kind of person you want to get to know on so many levels. Yes, she is arguably one of the most talented actors in the business, winner of an Academy Award. And now, she's only a Grammy away from having the coveted EGOT, the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony. But I couldn't wait to hear from Viola, the woman, the one who survived an unthinkable childhood, the one who witnessed abuse and endured hardships so painful few people would have survived. But Viola, she overcame, she persevered, and she grew. How? She talks about all of it in her new memoir, Finding Me. Just talking to Viola, I wept in admiration, in awe, and in celebration.
Hi, Hoda.
I can't. Wait, it's highlighted. It's dog-eared. I bound your book, the PDF, and made a little book out of it so I could carry it with me.
Oh.
Can I just tell you something? It is so meaningful and beautiful and touching, and I don't even know how to describe it, but it moved me to my very core.
Thank you.
My very core. It's so incredible. I mean,
Thank you,
I
Hoda.
thought I knew you, and then I read this. And now I'm like, wow, I'm so moved. And I'm also kind of mad at myself because I've interviewed you so many times, and I realized I must not have ever asked the right questions because this book is just so full of you. So let me ask you how it feels during this moment. Here you are. You've put your life on the page and you're handing it out like a piece of your heart. And you're saying, this is me.
Yes.
How does that part feel in this moment?
Terrifying. It really does. It's a lot of fear, you know, because I'm putting my life out there for the world to judge, observe. You know, it's like that old saying, I know what I said, I just don't know what you heard. And I know what I wrote, I just don't know how it's going to be received. And I think that is really ultimately what happens when you make yourself vulnerable. It's like running naked in a crowded stadium. So it's terrifying.
Well, it is so full of heart and soul. Let me just start by saying, and I think I speak for a lot of people in America, I did not know what you have endured in your life as a young girl. I knew that you had struggles. I did not know you grew up hungry. What does that mean to grow up hungry?
The hunger was just one part of it. It's growing up hungry. It's growing up exposed to that level of abuse. It's growing up feeling like an outsider. The thing about being hungry is you don't think about anything else. You get to school at 8. By 8:15, you're falling asleep. You're listening to people who say, oh, my mom made me breakfast this morning. I didn't want that cereal. And you're thinking, you didn't eat your cereal? You had cereal with milk? You know, your brain chemistry changes. How you perceive the world changes. And I'll tell you, the worst part of all of it is the deep, deep shame. Because how do you tell someone that you're hungry? How do you say that to a teacher who's worried about maybe your grades, how you're progressing in class? It's a basic human need that's not being fulfilled, and there's so much shame around it because you feel like, why isn't it being fulfilled?
There was a line in your book where you said, like, one of your friends came over to your house, opened the fridge, and asked if you were moving because there was nothing in there.
Yeah.
How did you find food? How did you find your basic needs so you could continue on your day?
You find it. You know, what I started to remember, because it's memory, right? When you go back and it hits you. It's different almost than nostalgia. But so the memory is people who gave you money on the street. I would go up to people and say, do you have a quarter? Do you have 50 cents? It's going to soup kitchens, Catholic churches, friendships where you know parents are going to make 3 meals a day. So you form those friendships. You go over to that house and you wait for the meal.
Wow. I mean, there was this other part of the book, I think it's a chapter you entitled Running.
Yeah.
And you were literally, as you call it, hunted down by young boys chasing you, calling you the N-word. You were like, in a sense, running for your life.
Yeah.
In those moments, I can't imagine that was happening day after day, that kind of horrific bullying.
It was day after day. That's what it felt like. Now, was I actually running for my life? Would they actually have killed me? I don't know about that. But that's what it felt like. It's just like anxiety. They say anxiety is just fear of death. What I realized from a very early age was I was born in a world that I just didn't fit into. And I did not have the language to understand the power of race, the power of being dark-skinned, the potency of being different. The power of that is just not how I was defined by those 8 or 9 boys. It's how the world defined me. It's that fear of being black, what black meant in this powerful caste system we have of how you treat people based on perceived value and worth. And I was worthless. That's what it told me. I was a child. Children cannot deal with the abstract, right? We don't have those building blocks. And so it felt like I was running for my life, and I didn't have any arms to run into.
Oh.
So I was just running.
And when you say no arms to run into, you describe, it's so poetic and sad. It like struck me over and over in my heart. But you even talked about how there weren't enough pages in the book to chronicle all of the fights that went on inside your home, what you bore witness to, what you felt helpless, I would imagine, as a kid watching this in front of you.
You do. It's the last of the acceptable violences is domestic violence. Nobody really cares. I'll tell you that. I think it's a complicated issue to deal with. And so what happens is you sort of sweep it under the rug. It becomes your sort of dirty secret.
Yeah.
But every time you faced it, it is absolutely traumatic. If I felt like I was running for my life from the 8 or 9 boys, I felt then I had to go into a home where I was running from my life. That's what it felt like when I would witness the violence between my mom and dad. And I keep remembering these moments of violence that even happened at night in the middle of the street, and not one window opened. No one came out to help. And I look back on that now because as a kid, we prayed that no one would see us. And then as an adult, I'm looking back and go, why didn't anybody see us or help us? Or did they see us? It becomes that complicated.
What was your survival technique, like to live day in and day out in a home that felt like that, and to go to school in a situation that felt like that? You had to have some place where you, little Viola, went to live. How did you transport yourself?
Well, little Viola had a whole technique of leaving my body. It was pretty awesome, by the way.
Tell me.
I'd always go into the bathroom, and I would stay there for the longest time. And I had a whole thing where I just would focus on one part of my body, usually my finger, and I'd shut everything down. And after a certain amount of time, I literally would leave my body and I'd go up to the ceiling. I'd turn around and I would look at myself. I dreamed. I tried to achieve, and I kept secrets.
You kept secrets.
I felt like the keeping of the secret, the people not knowing it, sort of helped me to survive. I didn't understand anything about secrets actually eroding you. That wasn't a part of my vocabulary, my understanding of human emotion. I just felt like if no one knew, then how they would see me is based on what I was achieving outside of my house.
Uh-huh.
I recreated myself.
Wow.
But when you recreate yourself and another reality from yourself, the danger of that is you also disconnect.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I disconnected. Same thing that I did when I sat on the toilet. And the disconnection, or like a lot of people who go through trauma, when they compartmentalize, which is also not good.
Yep.
That's what I did. I compartmentalized. I used drive and ambition to replace feeling and vulnerability.
Did you ever feel like your stuff was unhealable, like that was just going to be you?
Well, I wish I could store it away, but I had to unpack it.
Yeah.
Here's what I believe. I believe that what connects us is not just the joy, is not just the achievements, it's also the sadness.
Yeah.
It's also the pain.
Yeah.
I feel that if I cannot share my pain with someone else, the pain, the joy, the achievements, then it's not real connection. But in order for me to share that, for me to have the ability to share that, I have to unpack it.
One of the first quotes in your book is about faith. It says, I think human beings must have faith or must look for faith. Otherwise, our life is empty. I feel like that constantly saved you.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, which is the belief in things that you cannot see.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else. I think that I didn't have anything else. But I always compare, my life to that image of the first man on earth looking out at the ocean and the mountains and the sky, and maybe it's raining and there's thunder and lightning, and he has no language, because this is before language.
Yeah.
This is before psychology.
Yeah.
This is before people were named. This is before love or hate or anything. And how then do you figure out life? How then do you figure out meaning? How do you communicate anything in order to find it? That's how I felt. I have nothing.
I have chills. Chills right now on me.
So what you then rely on, see, this is the power of connection.
Yes.
What you rely on are people who see you. People who really maybe see the pain, see the potential, see the talent. People who just love you. And they carry you. There
was a moment, obviously, that changed your life, and it was when you flipped on the TV and the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman came on, and Miss Cicely Tyson was starring in it. What did young Viola's eyes see in that moment?
Magic. I saw everything. I saw what I wanted to be. I saw my possibilities. I saw my value. I saw it all in her. And I was like, that's it. It was a path, a blazing path for me. And listen, like I said, my sister Dolores is an incredible teacher right now. My sister Diane works for the Department of Agriculture in D.C. And my sister Anita went to business school, whatever. And for all of us, it changed us. Not even just in the acting field. It lit fire inside of us that wasn't in our lives before.
Because your sister Dolores, I think it was Dolores, who told you, we're not going to live like this. To think that all of these sisters were raised in these really horrific circumstances, yet somehow You grew, all of you. It wasn't like you weren't the one that got out. What was it that was in the family that made that possible for all of the sisters to get out?
Well, first of all, you have to define getting out. Because I know me, I do have some level of trauma and anxiety from the past.
Sure.
So getting out in terms of my profession required drive.
Yes.
Drive is different than growth and healing. Now, the getting out, emotionally, getting out is totally different, which is why I wrote the book. You don't get out. That's what happens. You have to reconcile and own your story. I didn't. I cut it out like it was the fat on an awesome piece of filet mignon. You cut out the fat and you recreate the story that you want to create. The problem with that is that, once again, you make yourself tough. You shut out the dark. You also shut out the light. And so that's what I realized when I was 28, is that I didn't get out. Hoda. I didn't. But I didn't know how to sort of reconcile it.
How did you? Or did you?
Ownership. That's what I did.
Yeah.
You either own your story or your story owns you. I'm not ashamed of it because I know that every single part of it made me who I am. I'm owning my story so people can be less alone. And I'm also owning my story because I want to love me. Hoda? I mean, at some point, come on. It's like, I'm 56.
I was listening to Alicia Keys' song, I Have a Voice. It's so powerful. It's with Brandi Carlile. And every time I hear it, I think to myself, I'm 57, and I think to myself often, like, what took me so long to have it? Like, you do all these things in life, and you nod your head. And I had that same epiphany. It's like, am I going to be going to my grave with good enough? That's all I deserve. When was it that you knew your worth? When did you know your worth?
I'm trying. The only reason why I'm silent is not because I don't have an answer. It's because I'm deciding if I want to say it or not. And I should just say it. It's a work in progress. Yeah. I started the journey in understanding the value of worth when I was 28 years old. Because as much as I said, I don't want to be my mom. I love my mom, but I want to be my mom. I realized I was my mom. She was my imprinter, And I would say by the time I met my husband at 34, 35, I knew that I was worth more than what I was accepting in my life before that time. I always defined my life as, or life in general, as a relay race. So your purpose in life is just like a relay race. Great runners. Yeah. And each runner runs their leg of the race, and they pass a baton on to the next great runner, and they run their leg of the race, and that's how life goes. Yeah. But man, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing life is about connection, but it's about you. Everything comes from you. So each of those great runners is just you at a different age. It's young Viola surviving that path, but getting that baton to 28-year-old Viola who says, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it, Viola. I'm going to go to Juilliard. I'm going to do this or whatever. I'm going to work in the theater. I'm going to do the best I can or whatever. And then hits a wall and goes, oh my God, I'm going to give it to the 38, 39-year-old Viola who's getting married and understands that now I got to now take another entity into consideration. And now I'm at 56-year-old Viola. And one of the reasons why I wrote the book, once again, is because I felt at 54 I was dropping the baton. Because I was looking back too much. But life, that's how I see it. It's a whole relay race of you.
Now, with your upbringing, and you have Genesis, your beautiful daughter, were you, as after you got married, yes, I definitely want kids. No, I definitely don't want kids. I'm not sure what I want to do about kids, given what you had seen?
Definitely felt like I didn't want to get married or have children.
Yeah.
I didn't see being alone as not sexy. I thought it was sort of sexy.
Yeah.
I would see like Linda Evans at awards shows, and I thought that was pretty cool that she went by herself. Yeah. I thought, that's a strong woman. I still feel that way, by the way. I hit it. Okay, I let's just say that. I hit it. You would say that I've achieved a certain level of success. And then I crashed and burned because I was like, this is it? Why is this it? Because I stopped at success and not at significance. And I remember running into Lorraine Toussaint, and I remember asking her, Lorraine, why did you adopt your daughter? And she paused for the longest time, and she said, I didn't want series regular to be on my tombstone.
Wow. Wow.
And it hit me that my entire life has been defined by achievements taking the place of meaning.
Oh, man.
I'm so conscious, even with Genesis, that I always want to say, you know, you're not an extension of mommy's dreams. She's her own person. But at the same time, I do sort of believe that she's my legacy. She's my hope.
Wow.
She's my meaning.
I just rewatched your Oscar acceptance speech, and at the end you talked about your parents, and you talked about how grateful to God you were that those were the people who were chosen to give birth to you. And after reading your book, I found that so profound, knowing what you had been through. Why did you say that?
Here's what I know about my life. What I learned from a very young age is radical love, radical forgiveness, radical transformation. What I was giving with my parents is an opportunity to grow. They gave me that ingredient that could either have killed me or had me grow in a way that some people never experience in their entire lives.
Wow.
And that's why when I finally ended the book, I ended the book with, God kept me exactly where I was at.
Yes. One of my favorite paragraphs in the whole book, and there are so many good ones, is this one. The question still echoes, how did I claw my way out? There is no out. Every painful memory, every mentor, every friend and foe served as a chisel, a leap pad that has shaped me. The imperfect but blessed sculpture that is Viola is still growing and still being chiseled. My elixir, I'm no longer ashamed of me. I own everything that has ever happened to me. The parts that were the source of shame are actually my warrior fuel. Come on! Come on, that's awesome. That is so awesome. I underlined it. I'm highlighting it when I get the real book. I'm going to keep it by my bed. It is so incredibly beautiful. And again, just lastly, as we wrap up, the title is Finding Me. Have you found her?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I have. You know, I said it, you know, little Viola is celebrating. She's sitting right next to me, and she's happy that she's finally being embraced. Yeah.
Well, Viola, it's a beautiful, beautiful book. I've been waiting for this book, and people are going to devour this. I think you're going to change. I mean, you've already changed a million people's lives, but I have a feeling you're going to do a lot more with this. Thank you, Viola. I adore you. Thank you so much. I'm keeping this.
I love you.
Okay. I love you. See ya.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.